here it is. The build everybody's talking about. I got my hacksaw Jim Duggan 2x4, and I got a stout Gen 2 F-150 Coyote. That's going to undergo quite a transformation. This one came out of a 2015 F-150 with about 120,000 miles on it, give or take a few miles. As you can see, it's dirty. It's got its, wear and tear items on it. It's got some, oxidation and some rust and stuff, and it has its share of stuff. But overall, it's not that bad. You can see this is about what you're looking at when you get a used engine. Perfectly normal. This one has dirty intake runners. The pistons are, have some carbon in it, but overall it spins freely. It seems like it's in good shape. We're still waiting on some parts, so I can't get too started on the build, but I'm gonna hopefully have my cam drive kit come in and then get started on the rest of it. Just wanted to shoot a quick video showing, what I have and where I'm kind of at. Here's the car it's going into. So if you're thinking about doing a swap like this, they're basically all over the map as far as how much it's going to cost and how in-depth it's going to be to do this. And some on YouTube will tell you can do it for $5,400, and others will tell you that it's going to require $20,000 in a professional shop with Dream Garage and a bunch of professionals and over 100-something man hours paid for. And I will do another build video talking about how much each part costs, what you're going to need, what you're not going to need, and kind of like what the route I went with, and total cost. I'll do that in a separate video. But to keep myself on track, what I wanted to do was more of a budget, mostly stock performance build, because the engines in the 99 to 04 Mustangs, they were okay in their day, but they're nothing to shake a stick at now. And you could spend all this money on bolt-ons and all, like I did my last car. I bought every bolt-on you could shy of a supercharger, and it really only did 13.8 in the quarter mile, and it wasn't very happy. It ran out of steam. I could probably put down, up to maybe 400 horsepower, but it's going to take a lot to get there. And then the risk that you have is that bottom end, a lot of people say that the rods are weak and you should build them if you go over 400. There's some debate as to how hard you can go, but quite a few performance shops that I spoke to said you shouldn't go over 400 to the wheels, because 450, while it can handle it, is pushing it. So why a Gen 2? They're more complicated, there's different firing order, they're more expensive to blah, 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 blah. That's why. Because when you go on, we'll say LKQ or eBay, and you start looking at engines, everyone's looking for the Gen 1 F-150s and the Mustangs and the Gen 2 Mustang engines, because those are compatible with the Ford Racing control packs and can be done with relative ease. They're a lot more straightforward as far as swapping. So what I found personally was that the Gen 1s, specifically Mustang engines, were a lot more expensive than maybe they were before this swap became popular. Now it's gaining popularity. It's almost as popular as the LS swaps are. So buying them is a lot more complicated and a lot more expensive. The parts, I noticed the control packs, since they first started becoming available, are now up by more than $300 more than what they were. So you start adding in the cost, it can get really expensive really quickly. But the Gen 2 engines, because of the different firing order and the extra steps required to get there, they sit on eBay and LKQ and stuff, and people don't want them. So when I ordered mine, it was already close to $2,000 less than what the Mustang or F-150 variants for Gen 1 would have been. And those would have been, you're talking about mileage ranging between 100 and 300,000 miles, and they want $4,000 or $5,000 for an engine. And now they want, you know, the engine and the transmission. They want full pullouts, and they're hard to find just the engine by itself. In my luck, I lucked out because the one who sent me the engine, he originally sent me a Jeep Wrangler engine. So when we went through the whole, you know, the argument of him coming to pick up the old engine, decided to just let me have it. And then about a month later, the new engine showed up, the one that I actually wanted. And when I called him, it's just not responsive at all. So through the whole argument process on eBay, I ended up with both engines. So what I did was I sold the Jeep Wrangler engine, and I used that to pay for the control pack. So I started my build at $0 Long story short, it's not as complicated as people make it out to be as far as sourcing the parts out. The work itself, I have a lot of experience working on projects like this, so you may not. If you're not mechanically inclined and you can't even change your own oil, then I'm going to say pass this up, because it's going to require a lot of out-of-the-box thinking and expertise as far as that. Otherwise, you may end up having to, you know, pay somebody to do it, and this can be 100 hours in a shop. You know, that's a lot. Now, a little background on myself is I've been turning wrenches since I was a kid. I used to work out in the garage with my dad. When I was younger, I've worked on motorcycles, I've worked on diesels, I've been to school, I've been a professional mechanic for quite a long time. So for me, I have the necessary experience and the necessary knowledge and out-of-the-box thinking to do the majority of the work myself. So if you're not mechanically inclined, you might find that this swap is well over your head. It's not as easy as they make it out to seem on YouTube. The videos make it seem easy, but these guys that are doing the video swap they're either professionals themselves, or they have the dream garage, or they have someone that's knowledgeable. So if you need help, join one of these swap forums. I'm sure there's people in the area, somewhere near you, who can at least give you pointers and help you along the way. But we'll see. You'll hopefully get an idea as to how complicated this is as we get going. I'll try to be as detailed as I can. But let's move over to the shop, and I'll show you basically what I've accomplished so far and give you a brief rundown of how to get to that point. All right, well, here we are. I have the valve covers off. Got most of the bolts out of the timing cover. I need to get a different puller because my puller doesn't fit for the harmonic balancer. Exhaust and engine mounts are off the side. Got pretty much everything off. Once I get the front timing cover off, I'll be able to show you a little bit more of how the long block looks. But as it is right now, this hasn't really been that difficult. Most of the bolts, a few were temperamental to get off. With the right technique, it was very easy to get them off. And engine's been pretty easy to work on so far. But we'll see how it goes when I get into the rest of it. But so far, it's been fun. Highly recommended. Do your own work. Because the quote I got to rebuild it from this point is $4,500. So yeah, nope. That's almost what a supercharger is. So do my own labor, do my own stuff. No, thank you. All right, so I don't know that this is gonna work. This may end up being a horrible idea or a genius idea. So I only have a 2 and 3 bolt puller. So I tried to find another one, and it's impossible to find right now. And I don't want to sit here and wait for a $200 tool to show up. So I'm going to see if this works. So essentially what I did is I took some studs, some nuts that I had laying around, and some washers. And I'm going to see if I can try to hook. See? As long as it comes out evenly, then there shouldn't be any issues. As long as it doesn't pop off, it should be fine. So we'll see. All right. Listen, it's coming. Not the easiest thing in the world, but it's coming. Almost off. There it comes. I'm using the belt to hold the pulley so that it doesn't move. Perfectly fine. And there it goes. Oh, off it comes. Oh, it's beautiful. That's a little American ingenuity for you. There you go. There you go. Get a better look at it. Bolts with the washers hooked behind just enough to grab it, and it works. All right, so as you can tell, I've gotten a lot of work done on the engine so far. It's really not that bad to work on if you know what you're doing. You just have to make sure that you take your time. You think outside, you know, there's going to be times like you saw, we're going to have to think outside the box. If you can find a Chrysler puller, one of the 3-prong pullers for a Chrysler balancer, I have seen some mechanics use those, so it's, you know, something to think about. But if not, you can make do with a 3-bolt puller from, I think I spent like 20 bucks on that thing, and I already had the bolts. The bolts can be any size, like M10 studs, you know, as long as they're about 2 inches long, or an inch and a half, 2 inches long. You can bring it all the way in and it'll work. That's pretty much it. So the timing cover comes off and go. Yeah, so it's really not that difficult to work on. You got to take your time, do everything slow, deliberate. If you don't know what you're doing, then it can be challenging. But I mean, the best way to do this is buy the engine. There we go, and it's off. The best way to do this is to buy the engine and then work on it. Buy the engine and buy the, you know, all the components that need to be fixed on the engine. Start with that. I would also order your control pack, because the next step in the evolutionary chain is going to be, you know, that. And it could take, if you order the control pack from Ford, it could take 6+ months to get it. It's really not that complicated to do this step. From here on, you need to know what the heck you're doing, you know, because, you know, there's mistakes that you can make that can cost you expensive repairs if you don't know what you're doing. But at the very least, you bring it down to this point, and if you already have all your components, you could find a builder to take it from here. Let the builder do all this stuff, or buy the long block. But that's, you know, a more expensive route to take. There are lots of steps you can do for yourself. Even from this point, you can bring it down, pull the heads off. It's not tremendously difficult. You follow along. And I'll try to film as best I can. You know, the lighting in the garage is not the greatest, but you can see here, you have your timing components. Timing chain, you have your tensioners, your guides, cam phasers. These are the sprockets. Some say that you should replace them, and it's really not that expensive. If you go with these and the oil pump gears, it's probably like 300 bucks. But look at all the stuff I had to do just to get to this point. So you're here anyway, and this little bad boy could be the whole reason you take the engine out, because there's no way you're going to do this in the car without it being a major ordeal. You know, you're going to have to pull it out again if you screw up the oil pump gears because you live too long at 8,000. If you plan to, you know, to use the engine, you know, what's a couple $100 for added insurance? And overall, you say you got the crankshaft, crank sprocket, timing chains. You have your guides here. It doesn't look that bad. These look like they're in decent shape. Cam actuators. You have your intake and your exhaust comes here. Yep, another tensioner up here at the top. We'll see more when we get into here, but you know, it's really not that bad. You know, it's dirty, but not impossible. These are, you know, you can see it's cleaning up just with my glove. Not bad. So, you know, it can be cleaned off. As you pull this apart, the thing I like about this is that, you know, these caps can only fit on one way. But what they did was, if you look carefully, they're numbered. See, so here you have, it would be theoretically 6, 7, 8. They're numbered. And it even has a little marking already to let you know which way it goes. So all you have to do is remember intake and exhaust, so you don't screw the caps up and say which way. So what you would do is clean off an area on a table like this. The next step I have to do is to clean a table, but you take all these things out and you lay them out exactly the way you take it off on the table. Conversely, the other way to do it is the way that I'm doing it, is to take a box, you know, like I've got the one on the table. You take a box and you know, basically tape all these things to the box, all the bolts and all the stuff that comes out exactly the way it goes on the top of the box. If it's little like these, you can just punch right into the hole in the box, and then you write on the box, this is where it came from. Intake number 7, you know, intake number 8, intake number 9, intake number 10. And then you can lay out everything the way you want it. They also have organizers, but you know, poor man's version, you're going to lay it out, all this stuff, you're going to lay it out on the box. This way there's no confusion. And then when you get down into the valves, the same thing. You take the valve out, you punch it into the box, or you take the springs and all that stuff out, unless you're going to replace them. Lay everything out on the table or on the box and mark every single thing that comes out. This way you can't mess up what goes where, you know? And the same thing with the other side. Start with one side. Completely take care of one side. This way there's no mixing up left and right, or you know, driver, passenger. You do all this stuff from the one head. Have everything out, everything's ready to go, and then clear an area and do everything on the opposite side. And then take the heads off. Like, do all that stuff, bring it down, maybe do the springs, then take the heads off and do them separately, but don't do both at the same time. Just like you don't do both brakes at the same time, right? Well, it's essentially where I'm at. Once you get the heads off, the beauty of having a stand is that you can rotate it. When you start pulling the pistons out, you can work on the crankshaft on the bottom once it's turned. And as I'm working on this thing, when I was working on the side, I could turn it so that I have better access to the engine. So, highly recommended. You're only going to use it once. Buy it from a place like Harbor Freight. You could throw it away. It's better than renting. You can have it as long as you need it for, or you could just find somebody to take it on YouTube or sell it if somebody's looking for it. Those things really aren't that bad. Anyway, so that's essentially where I'm at. We'll have another video talking about a little more details about this, but Gen 2 F-150, the end of Series 1.